नमस्कार, मैं आरबी सिंह यादव और आप देख रहे हैं मेरा यूट्यूब चैनल आरबी सिंह यादव एडिटर। आज हम सीधे सीधे भारत सरकार की वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी के पति महोदय डॉक्टर परकर प्रभाकर को लेकर बात करेंगे। उन्होंने एक इंटरव्यू में बहुत सारी पोल खोल के रख दी है मोदी सरकार की, और कई बातें उन्होंने यह बात भी कह दिया है कि ये जो इस समय मुद्दे इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड के चल रहे हैं, ये बड़ा टेक्निकल विषय है, जनता इसे बहुत देर से समझ पाएगी, लेकिन जनता थोड़ा बहुत तो समझ ही रही है कि कहीं ना कहीं दाल में काला है। उन्होंने बहुत सारे विषय उठाए अपने इंटरव्यू में और कहा कि कई मुद्दे थे। सबसे पहले तो उन्होंने 15 लाख रुपए का इशू उठाया, कहा कि 15 लाख रुपए हर व्यक्ति के खाते में जाएंगे जो विदेश में काला धन जमा है, उसको लेकर के। उसके बाद उन्होंने इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड के बारे में कहा और एसबीआई पर कटाक्ष करते हुए कहा कि जो एसबीआई 4 जून के बाद का समय मांग रही थी बॉन्ड की सारी डिटेल देने में, उसे 24 आवर्स के अंदर उसको सारा कुछ देना पड़ा। बाकी बहुत सारी और भी बातें हैं। विपक्ष के ऊपर भी उन्होंने कहा कि विपक्ष को ये सारे इशू उठाने चाहिए, चूँकि एक इंटरनेशनल टाइप स्तर का फ्रॉड हुआ है, इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड के बहाने जो पैसा इकट्ठा किया गया है। ये सारी चीज़ें आप सुनेंगे मेरे इस वीडियो में। मैं अभी आपको ये सारे वीडियो सुनवाऊंगा और पहला वीडियो सुनिए, उसके बाद फिर मैं बात करूंगा, उसके बाद फिर हम सोच रहे हैं कि दूसरा वीडियो भी हम उनका सुनवाएं, और अंत में आप फिर जैसा भी है आप उस पर टिप्पणी करें। आप पहले देखें मेरा ये वीडियो।
Thank you very much for having me here in your wonderful program. Well, when in 2014, when this government came into power, it rode very high on the anti-corruption sentiment in the country. So you've seen that the then Prime Ministerial candidate had said that, he will end corruption. He will bring all the black money that is stashed in Swiss banks. His government will double the farmers' income. It will also distribute 15 lakhs per account after bringing back the black money from abroad. And his government would create about 2 crore jobs per annum. This was the pitch. Now look at, we will examine the other things, but let us look at the corruption angle first of all, since you have mentioned electoral bonds. Now look at the electoral bonds. Electoral bonds, when they were introduced, they have been challenged. But somehow or the other, the government was successful in seeing that the Supreme Court doesn't even hear the petitions for a long time. And even when they were challenged, even when the Supreme Court was not prepared to hear the petitions, before every election, the normal course would be they could be suspended. But even staying of these electoral bonds was not done by the then Supreme Court. And I do not want to cast aspersions, but circumstantial evidence tells you that as late Arun Jaitley had said, the pre-retirement decisions and post-retirement benefits, if these two are connected, then you will see the Supreme Court law or justices who have
निर्मला सीतारमण के पति
not settled these, they were all rewarded very well.
का ये इंटरव्यू आप देख रहे हैं,
or members of parliament, Rajya Sabha nominations, etc. I mean, this is what people feel. This is one. The second thing
जो
is
इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड को
when the Supreme Court
मोदी गेट कह के
recently
पुकारते हैं,
decided to hear these petitions out. the government made frantic efforts. They moved heaven and earth to see that the hearing doesn't take place. The government has compelled its highest law officer to even tell the Supreme Court that the people of India have no right to know
Yes.
about how their political parties are being funded. They went to that extent. When the Supreme Court has decided and pronounced its decision, asked the State Bank of India to give the data to the Election Commission, directed the Election Commission to publish the details. Just a few hours before the deadline, the State Bank of India goes back to the Supreme Court and says that they can't do it and they need time. And time till when? Till June 30th. That is until after the elections. That is one. The second thing is the government also encouraged the trade and industry bodies like FICCI, ASSOCHAM and CII to go to the Supreme Court and say that look, the name should not be revealed. And even the Supreme Court Bar Association president, which later was disowned by the members,
Yes.
he wrote to the Supreme Court saying that the name should not be divulged. Now, look, if you look at all this, what does it tell you? It tells you that the government of the day, Mr. Narendra Modi's government, is not at all willing to part with the details of the electoral bonds. Now, because the Supreme Court dug in and stood firm, even then, the data was partial. The first year data was not given initially.
Yes.
Now, whatever data is available, the citizens, people like you, they put one and one together and say that, when was a raid conducted? When was electoral bond given and redeemed? When was a contract given? What is the extent or what is the quantum of a contract or government, agreement, whatever? And then how much is the electoral bond? What percentage of it? Now, these are all very clearly, they give you a very strong circumstantial evidence that there is a very clear quid pro quo between the government, the ruling party, and the people who are affected either positively by getting a contract or negatively by facing the enforcement agencies' raids like CBI, ED,
Yes.
GST, IT, and all that. Now, it is possible that these are all circumstantial evidence, or it's just coincidences. But what I want people to understand is there cannot be so many coincidences. And if at all, if the government or the government spokespersons argue that it's just a coincidence and people have given so much, thousands of crores, hundreds of crores, just like that because they love this party, if that is the case, if they are so confident, what I challenge them is to institute an impartial, unimpeachable judicial commission to get to the bottom of this.
Right.
Now, since this has broken out, the government and the government spokespersons and the party, ruling party and the ruling party.
डॉक्टर
डॉक्टर प्रभाकर ने जो कहा है वो बहुत ही शानदार है, उल्लेखनीय है। आप जानते भी होंगे डॉक्टर प्रभाकर ने एक किताब लिखी है जो बहुत अच्छे तरह से पूरे देश के लोगों ने पढ़ी है और उसे बहुत सराहा गया है। इसके बाद फिर उन्होंने और भी सारी बातें कही हैं। उन्होंने बेरोजगारी पर पूरी बात और बताई है। मैं अगले वीडियो में फिर दिखाता हूँ आपको, देखिए।
From a slightly different point of departure, Neelu. That is, if the government, the Prime Minister and the ruling party, they go on saying that, these could be just coincidences and, we have not really taken the money, they should come forward and ask for a judicial commission and an inquiry. Failing which, I think it's the Supreme Court having come this far, they should order
which institute? Yeah.
Yes, either this. But if the government wants to come clean, as they claim, why should they volunteer? This is one. The other thing, Neelu, is that, why I said that this is the biggest scam in the world.
देश की
not
जानी
just
मानी
in India,
पत्रकार नीलू
is
व्यास से बात
not
कर रहे
only
हैं
the extent
वित्त
of the
मंत्री के
financial
पति
gains, which is huge, by the way.
फरकर साहब.
And there are 2-3 other aspects to it. One is that firms which were registered, which came into existence just about 2 or 3 years ago, they paid huge amounts of money. Number one. Number two,
That's right.
the firms that had very little profit, they paid out much higher amounts than their actual profits.
बिल्कुल.
Third, even firms that are in losses, they have also paid huge amounts of money. Now, what does it indicate? It indicates that an electoral bond scheme allows this. You can buy a bond. It is registered in your name, but you give it to me, and I give it to the ruling party. That is possible. So, the actual payee or payer is me, but that doesn't reflect in the registered buyer of the electoral bond. It could be me giving you the money, so there is a laundering here.
Right. But do you think the BJP is really rattled after this expose of electoral bonds?
I'll come. Private bank had two problems. One is the leadership of the bank. The other one is the cap on the investment percentage of that particular individual or the family. Now, these two were relaxed after payment from that bank ownership. Substantial amount of electoral bonds to the ruling party. They were redeemed. So, which means that this government has even compelled Reserve Bank of India to compromise. So that is the reason. Every institution is compromised. Huge monies are at stake.
Dr. Parkala, you...
Undoubtedly. And, in a recent interview to a Tamil channel, he also said that he was the one who introduced this scheme. He claimed the ownership.
Yes.
Not only that, I think in that interview, since we have broached that interview topic, I must say that in that interview he also said that people who are opposing the electoral bonds will soon come to regret it.
Yes, he said that.
I'm just trying to understand what could he mean by that. Now, people who found fault with it or opposed it include the Supreme Court. Does it mean that the Supreme Court will come to regret it? The people who opposed and found fault with the electoral bonds include the judges on the bench. Does it mean that all these justices of the Supreme Court also will come to regret it? It includes people, it includes the Chief Justice of India. Does it mean that the Chief Justice of India will come to regret it soon? But you and I are okay. But then it's also an institution which is an independent judiciary. What does it mean? Now, is it that, or is it that he's meaning that, they will soon realize that there are very transparent, very good scheme? Or is it that he is holding out a threat? Look, I will see. I smell a bit of a threat in it.
Okay.
See, it comes out of him that he is trying to say, look, you will come to regret this, what you've done. That is what I read into it. Otherwise, there is no reason for him to say.
He's trying to.
Because you see, it is Supreme Court decision. Any political leader so far, especially people who are occupying such high positions, would immediately say, we duly respect the decision of the Supreme Court. That is the standard statement whenever a decision of the judiciary went against a particular party. And that is how I understand it, Neelu. If I were not to understand that way, I would have expected the Prime Minister to say, well, we respect although we did it with good intentions, but since the Supreme Court has held it this way, we respect the decision of the Supreme Court. Has even remotely has that sense come out of what he said so far on, or whatever the ruling party, other leaders have said so far on the electoral bonds and the decision by the Supreme Court? Nothing at all. So that is why I feel that they are in some way holding out a threat.
But to Dr.
His confidence is one that there's nobody to question, and he feels that he is not accountable, he is not answerable to anybody, and probably they also feel, the Prime Minister and the entire establishment of the ruling party, they feel that they are all under our control. They cannot ask any question which we do not really allow them to ask. This is one. The second thing, Neelu, is this. When prices are so high, employment is so high, rural distress is so high, and most of the promises that were made in 2014 and 2019 were not honored, and there were so many deaths during COVID, during the pandemic, and there's a very, very clear mismanagement of the entire thing. And when Chinese are sitting on a huge chunk of India's land, when all these things are there in the public domain, still the ruling party has been winning election after election, especially in places like UP. Now, that also gives them the sense of hubris, that sense of overconfidence, that look, whatever we do, we are not being punished.
Right.
Let me talk about the 400 plus seats for the NDA alliance and 370 plus or 370 for the BJP. Now, it's a very interesting ploy, Neelu. Had they not said that, the debate would have been whether they're winning at all or not. Now the debate has shifted whether they're going to win 370 or not. Remember, you just see the shift. So that is one. There's a ploy. That's a good ploy, of course. But the point is that what I have been observing, especially after the breaking of this electoral bond scam, it is going very rapidly into the people. Now, you might say, do they understand electoral bonds? My question is, did they understand 2G? They may not understand the nuances of it, the details of it, but then, don't underestimate the wisdom of the Indian electorate. They now have a sense of, there is a huge amount of money that changed hands, and the government frantically tried to, cover it up, tried to prevent it from coming out. This much is there, and the BJP, unlike earlier, it has lost control of the narrative now. It is,
but up to get,
and they're also trying to cover it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
उसको छुपाने की कोशिश कर रही है सब.
It makes no difference for the result. I've known so many leaders who are very confident until they lost the elections. Okay, so that is a completely irrelevant point. And just because somebody looks confident or comes across as confident doesn't mean that they're going to win, or if they're not confident, they're not going to win. It's not that. That is a completely different process, and this is a completely. People are capable of living in their own paradise.
So you're saying that Modi is living in.
The second thing is that look at the way the government so far has not come up with a coherent defense of this, or the government's side, or the ruling party's side. That is another one. And and whatever little remarks that you get are these. That one, who will understand this? That is one. The second thing is, haven't the other political parties also taken? Now the point is this. What is the USP of BJP for the last 10 years? Or even, even during, before also, LK Advani used to say, it's a party with a difference. They claimed the moral high ground. The reason why UPA 2 was voted out of power was, a series of scandals. promises. And there's India Against Corruption movement. And, because of that, people have chosen an alternative. That time, a very viable alternative it looked. And then, not only that, but they've also given a huge promises like, bringing back black money, doubling of farmers' incomes, and 2 crore jobs per annum. A series of things. Now, the government will be held accountable to all those promises. Now, one more thing you said is, so far they have not been punished. Are they likely to be punished now? That's the question that you've raised.
Yes.
There's always a last straw on the back of the camel. COVID did not punish them. Unemployment during that period or after that did not punish them. Rural distress did not punish them, because there is this, maybe we should give some kind of a benefit of doubt. They're doing something about Ram Temple, they're doing something about, the civilization thing. But, ultimately the lived experience will come back to bite you. People are, now, Neelu, the youth unemployment in this country is one of the highest in the world. We are 24%. We are in the company of countries like Iran, Yemen, Lebanon. These are the countries we are. And a small neighbor like Bangladesh has half of our youth unemployment. And youth unemployment headline is 24. But then if you look at it, people between the ages of 20 and 25, youth unemployment among them is 40%. And look at the price rise. I'm not talking about, but the people are feeling it, Neelu. The government might deny it, but this is a lived experience. I'll give you 2 instances. Sometime in 2022 beginning, January, February, the railways have advertised for 35,000 jobs, which is called non-technical jobs. For 35,000 jobs, there were 1 crore 25 lakh applicants. That is the intensity of youth unemployment or unemployment. Now, last fiscal, the entire budget for Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Guarantee Act, Manrega, for the entire 1 year's allocation was exhausted in 6 months' time. So there's a lot of pressure. Why would anybody go and ask for a minimum wage job? Because there are opportunities. Now, when the World Hunger Index was published, the government went hammer and tongs saying that this is anti-Indian. But then within days after that, the Prime Minister goes to announce free food grains ration to 82 crore people. It is an admission, isn't it? Now, look at this GDP growth. Neelu, we are claiming to be the fastest growing economy. We are also claiming to be 5th largest economy. Now, 5th largest economy, we have overtaken the United Kingdom and become 5th largest economy. We have displaced United Kingdom. Now, do you agree, and all of your viewers would agree, that United Kingdom is a developed country? Now, if you have overcome and overtaken a developed country, what are you supposed to be? Aren't you supposed to be a developed country?
निर्मला सीतारमण के पति डॉक्टर परकर प्रभाकर की ये इंटरव्यू आपको कैसी लगी? आप ज़रूर लिखें, ज़रूर बताएं आपको क्या लगता है कि जो नरेंद्र मोदी 400 पार का नारा दे रहे हैं, क्या वो सफल हो पाएगा, और परकर इस बारे में क्या सोचते हैं? तो आपने मेरा चैनल अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है तो ज़रूर करें और इसको सुने पूरे वीडियो को। परकर ने अपनी बात वैसे अंग्रेजी में कही है, शायद आपकी समझ में ना आए, लेकिन मैंने कुछ पॉइंट आपके सामने रखे हैं। उनके ज़रिए आप उनकी जो बॉडी लैंग्वेज है और जो बात है बहुत सरल इंग्लिश में उन्होंने बोला है, आप समझ सकते हैं। देखिए, मैं आपको अभी ये वीडियो यहीं समाप्त कर आपसे कहूँगा कि आप मुझे सब्सक्राइब ज़रूर कर लें। थैंक यू वेरी मच। मैं आरबी सिंह यादव।